Good morning, my friends. I'm driving. Thought it'd be a good time to talk about something I wanted to talk about for a while, and that is the silent assassin approach to getting and keeping a gig, to being an actual professional in the music industry. This term comes from a conversation I was having with some other players, and Dan Dugmore's name came up. He's everybody's musical hero. Everybody my age and younger anyway. If you're not familiar with who Dan is, he was a staple in the LA scene for a long time. Played with Linda Ronstadt, James Taylor, and then he moved to Nashville and he became a staple in the Nashville scene. And he's an amazing musician, guitar player, pedal steel, always plays super musical, really cool, inspiring, compelling stuff, okay? And he's just an easy hang. And he earned the nickname the Silent Assassin. And I don't know how long that nickname's followed him around. It might have just been something one of these other players said because that's how they think of him, but he wears that very well. And so I want to talk about how you can do that, okay? Because if you're trying to get a gig, say you're auditioning, or sometimes bands will just take a player out for a weekend and see how it goes, and that's the audition. There's just some things that you need to think about that you might not think are important when it comes time to try to get a gig or to keep a gig. I think what gets you the gig and what keeps you the gig can often be different things, okay? Number one, you cannot just be all about the solos, all right? If you're on a tour and you're playing a 60-minute show, that means there's 23 other hours out of the day that you are on that gig that you're not playing music, all right? And think about how many minutes out of that 60-minute set are you actually playing a guitar solo? It's probably not that many. You might have a chance to play a solo for 4 or 8 bars on most of the songs of the set. It's a very small percentage of your time. And you got to realize that whoever's auditioning for that gig, it is assumed that every single one of you can play a solo and can shred your brains out when asked to do so. All right? That's assumed. And the reason why it's assumed is because we're all guitar players. We're electric guitar players. We practiced in front of a mirror, right? We've got a little bit of frontman syndrome where we play all this flashy stuff and want all the attention, right? It's assumed that you can do that. Your particular way of doing that, what makes your solos sound like you, is probably not going to be the deciding factor that gets you the gig. It's more the silent part than the assassin part that's going to get and keep you a gig, okay? Here's what I mean by that. My friend Dan Dugmore, on a session, he is never taking over the conversation, okay? He's never interjecting when somebody else is telling a story. Oh, that reminds me of this one time. Blah, 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 blah. He's not a me monster, all right? He's got great stories, and they're hilarious, and I can't believe the amount of stuff that he remembers over decades of being on the road, especially with all the drugs he used to do. It was a different world back then. But he is somebody you don't have to worry about, okay? And I think that's really important for modern guitar players, especially younger, hungry guitar players or new guitar players or somebody who just really wants a gig. You can get really excited and really nervous about getting a gig, especially when you need it to make money. And you see that, hey, this particular act has dates booked all summer. They're doing the festival circuit. They've got a fall tour. If I get this gig, I'm going to make however many shows worth of show pay, or maybe it's a salary or retainer gig. Like, you might really need that, What you don't want to do is show up and be a me monster, okay? You don't want to show up and be so decked out in chains and necklaces and some gig shirt and a belt and spikes and leather everywhere. I don't know. I think it's easy to overdo it on how you dress. Back in my day, when I was on the road, which has been 12 years now, it was kind of popular to wear those shirts that looked like somebody sneezed sequins on them. They're kind of bedazzled, and just words or little things splattered on them. Everything was splattered. Well, I don't get it. I didn't get it then. I still don't get it. It just kind of looked like the Buckle threw up on you. You might not know what the Buckle is, but back when I was on the road, it was a place that a lot of people went for their gig clothes. To me now, it's like, wow. It's either we didn't really think about how ridiculous we looked, or it just looked like we were overthinking it. I think if you just wear dark colors and they fit well, that's good. Your artist might be particular about what you wear. My last gig, the artist kind of was David Neal. He would comment when I was wearing, I would wear black chucks. He was like, I remember one time he goes, "Oh, Strander, this ain't Hot Shell Ray." I was like, what? And he was talking about my shoes. He was like, "We're a country act, you should be wearing boots." I was like, oh, okay. So I had to go figure that out. But, for the most part, you're kind of in the background. You're supposed to look cool, but you're in the background until it's your chance to step forward for a solo. And maybe in that 60-minute set, there's a part where the artist kind of shows the band off. Everybody gets to take an extended thing or whatever. That kind of helps artists on a longer set to recover. Honestly, helps them to get their breath. They can go get a drink. I've played with artists where they'd step off stage and have a cigarette while the band was like playing some instrumental version of some song and going nuts. I don't know. That stuff is important, right? But again, it's the silent part more than the assassin part that's going to get you the gig, okay? So don't be the guy that takes over conversations. Don't be the guy that they got to wonder where you went after the show because you're off trying to get some girl's phone number when everybody's trying to get rounded up onto the bus so they can get to the next town. Don't be the guy that requires all this extra attention and thought, or the guy that tries to command the vibe and take over conversations, and that's just kind of exhausting. And on a gig, your biggest source of more work is going to be the other players that you're playing with. Okay, that's a big deal. Probably should have said that earlier in the video. So what you don't want to do is be one of those guys who's like always vying for an MVP award that doesn't exist, okay? Like nobody said that anybody's competing for an MVP award, but you show up and you're joined at the hip with the artist, and you're like talking, "Oh man, we should hang," or whatever, or "Hey, what about this thing that I'm doing? Do you like that?" And when nobody asked you, like just keep doing what you're doing. If you're not getting feedback, it's because what you're doing is working, okay? And you don't have to get constant verbal reassurance about that. And you don't have to show up and act like it's your job to save the day. The other players on the gig are going to think of you as the competition when you act like that, okay? And so when that gig ends and you're looking for other work, and other work is looking for you or somebody like you, say somebody that you were on a gig with gets asked, "Hey, do you know any guitar players? I got this 2-week run," or "I've got a record that needs somebody new and exciting." If you're if you're a me monster, if you're the kind of person who is acting like the competition, and always trying to be the MVP, the unspoken MVP of every situation, they're probably not going to think of you because you're a little bit exhausted, okay? So don't do that. Don't do that stuff. It's the silent part. Everybody assumes that you can be an absolute assassin and play your brains out when the time comes. But how do you act the other 23 hours out of the day? How do you conduct yourself? Are you a professional? You know, you want to be a professional and get paid to do things, you need to act like a professional. You need to treat it like it's an actual job. You need to have the mindset of an ER nurse who works long shifts on the weekend at their job, right? Rather than like the guy who, all right, it's time to get on the bus. I'm going to start drinking the second wheels are up, and I'm going to party every evening. I mean, that might work out in some situations, especially if the artist is kind of a drinker or whatever. But man, how taxing is that? You know, the tour manager has to worry about getting the artist to and from, you know, all the venues, to the next show, to the hotel, to a radio station for an interview. Don't be one of those guys that your tour manager is like, oh man, I got to worry about where that guy is too. Like, what in the world? You're just not going to last. You might get the gig because you're a great player. You're going to lose the gig because you're not a professional. So there's a difference between being a professional and being a good musician, obviously. And the less of a me monster, the more you can just take care of your own stuff. Be quiet, carry a big stick, you know. That's kind of how Dan got that nickname as the silent assassin. Like, you'll forget he's there when you're all hanging out. So he's just chill, you know. But when it's like, hey, we're kind of hearing a pedal steel solo on this song, he's gonna blow your mind every time he plays, you know. He's gonna make every song sound like it belongs on the radio. So that's what I aspire to, you know. I started doing this after I got married. We moved to Nashville on our 1-year anniversary. So my wife had already kind of domesticated me by the time I started touring. And it was hard on our marriage, I won't lie. Like, we survived and even thrived because we were very intentional with the time that we did have. My job did not fit into a normal 8 to 5 days a week kind of rhythm. It fit more into I'm leaving Thursday night and I'll see you Sunday morning or Monday morning kind of rhythm. And so a lot of phone calls, a lot of intentional hanging out, going and doing things, treating Tuesday and Wednesday like our weekend, you know. That's how we made it work. So then we started having kids, and I hung up the road hat. Told everybody I play sessions now, and took every recording gig I could possibly get, and it was great. It worked. So I'll see you guys later. Have a really good one.